Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and hope everybody's having a good day and really appreciate you making some time to spend with me on the video. Guys, today we're going to be talking about the Smartass generation of bass fishing that has reared their ugly head over the past 6 months. Going to give you guys my opinion on this, talk about it a little bit, and definitely be curious to get your guys' comments on that as well after the end of the video here. Also, guys, before we get started, just a couple quick housekeeping tips. I know you guys get tired of hearing about, but man, if I couldn't do the housekeeping tips, I wouldn't be doing the YouTube videos. So appreciate your patience with them. Just like to invite everybody or anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me. You can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler. Just shoot me a private message. And also, guys, quick reminder, I got the sale going on, the Get Ready for Sale on my Solar Bat Series RB2 and RB3 glasses here. You can get them at Tackle Warehouse. I'll put that link in the description or through the Solar Bat website. 30% off on regular lenses and prescription lenses. So much appreciated, you guys checking those out. Okay, one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, or the reason I wanted to do this video, is there's a new term these smartasses are using to talk about basically any angler that's over 40 years old, and that is they call them old heads. Old heads, washed up geezers, grandpas. We're seeing a rapid acceleration in these derogatory terms towards older anglers. Most of these anglers that are doing this, from my, the best guess that I can have, they're in their, usually mid 20s to late 30s. It's sort of in that time range. One thing I will say is all of the younger anglers I've met, like the young anglers that are in their, 16 to 22-year-old range, they're some of the most respectful guys I've ever met. It's like, to me, it's like the younger the anglers are, like if they're in the high school, college age, very respectful for the most part. But when it seems like something clicks in these dudes out there when they get 25 to 39 years old, that they just sort of turn into dicks. You can identify them pretty easy. A lot of these guys are the dudes you see driving in jacked up four-wheel drive pickups with the big loud mufflers on them that pass you going 85 miles an hour at 4:30 in the morning on the way to the ramp in the morning. That's a lot of those are that group there. But I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the dynamics about this and how the disrespect for their elders is basically off the chart. Now, one of the most refreshing dudes that I have ever met in my life is my good friend Cunningham. A lot of you guys may know Connor, lives here in Springfield, Missouri, where I do. He was the BFL All-American champion, I think, 2 years ago. And even though Connor is in his 20s and he uses technology, he is one of the most respectful, not one of the most, he's probably the most respectful young angler I have ever seen in terms of somebody that would never think about disrespecting somebody older than him. He was raised right. He is a historian in the sport. He can tell you all about guys that fished 40 years ago, both locally here around this part of the country or on a national level. He is just so cool and respectful, and it just does my heart good to see somebody like that. But that is an exception to the rule. And one of the things about this is I never saw this before ever since forward-facing sonar started taking out. And once forward-facing sonar started to be a dominant force over the past 2 years or so, you've seen an emergence of these smartasses out there. They think that just because they can go out now and use a crutch and have an umbilical cord tied up to a forward-facing sonar unit, that they are just the balls, and they think that they, are the cock of the walk. But I got news for them, guys. They are not as smart as they think they are. They're not as good as they think they are. They rely on crutches of technology. But the main thing is just the disrespect they show for the older anglers. I don't get this, guys. A lot of it was how people are raised. I was not raised like that. I was raised to respect older people, and I always did. That is some of the most important mentoring people can give their young kids, is respect their elders, the wisdom of it. Because most people, guys, you've heard of the term young and dumb. That is so true. I was young and dumb in my 20s. It's only through the aging process you get wiser and you see the world a little bit clearer. Prime example, I'll tell you how young and dumb. Here's a great lesson about me being young and dumb and then learning a quick lesson from it. I told this story about 6 months ago, but it's a good analogy. I want to refresh this. When I was 17 years old and junior in high school, I worked a part-time job at a car dealership in Joplin, Missouri after school. I'd wash cars, and I did it for like 3 years. And the maintenance man that worked there, he was really a crotchety old dude. He's not old, he was probably, I don't know, in his mid 60s or maybe mid to late 60s at the time when I was 17. And he was just grumpy, you know, just grumpy all the time. And I still respected my elders, but it's like I sort of had this attitude about this guy that I kept to myself. He's just this old cranky fart. But it wasn't until I got to know him better and he actually invited me over to his house to dinner that I found out that he was a Marine Corps veteran that had fought in the battles of Peleliu and Okinawa, which were two of the bloodiest battles the Marines fought in World War II. And I realized why he was cranky. You know, to survive Peleliu and Okinawa in the Marine Corps, there's no telling the freaking hell he went through. So a lot of times, guys, if you're a younger guy and you judge older people for being cranky and whatever, you got no idea what they've been through. You got no idea the battles they're fighting internally, what they're dealing with, and it's just super disrespectful. I hate to see it. And one of the things that we have seen with this is ever since this entire technology battle has entered our sport over the past couple of years, there has been an explosion about this. And that explosion is accelerated through social media because, guys, I can tell you there's nobody that knows better than I do what keyboard warriors and trolls are like. Internet trolls, YouTube trolls, you know, YouTube keyboard warriors, Facebook YouTube warriors. I deal with them every day out there. Those are generally the ones that they're the smartasses, and they're the ones that call you the old head. Apparently that's the deal now. These smartasses, the smartass generation uses this term old head now in a derogatory sense to talk about, you know, anybody that is pre-forward facing sonar, which is unbelievably freaking disrespectful. I mean, one of the things that I always remembered when I was a young angler coming up, I started fishing the Bassmaster circuit when I was 23 years old. And I had almost a reverence for the older anglers. I gravitated towards them. I wanted to be around them all the time. You know, when I go up to older guys like, you know, Basil Bacon and that type of people when I was younger, I would just be super nervous. You know, I didn't ever look at them as an old head, you know, out of respect for that. And for whatever reason, we don't see that anymore. And we're not talking about a huge percentage of the bass fishing population, but it's bigger than it's ever been. And you can go through my social media and see it. Most of the time I'll delete those comments because I don't have time to put up with that bullshit. You know, I'm not gonna allow some freaking asshole to use my platform to spread a bunch of hate and, you know, just disrespect, you know, to people that are older than they are. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to call that out a little bit. If you're one of the guys that use the term old head, you need to completely reevaluate your worldview out there and realize that you're not as smart as you think you are. You're not as, you know, good as you think you are in fishing. And one of the common threads with that is which cracks me up, we talked about before, is so many of these guys think that if forward-facing sonar was taken away tomorrow, that they'd still dominate and they'd still do just as good. That is the biggest freaking joke I have ever seen in my life. Of course, you'll never see them do that because, like I said, unless Bassmaster does something that surprises everybody and bans forward-facing sonar, that's not going to happen. And another thing, a little bit off the topic there, is apparently Bassmaster is like wanting to take a vote amongst the Elite Series anglers whether or not they want to ban forward-facing sonar. Again, what a freaking joke, guys. First of all, there's the way that Bassmaster has set their format up. That's basically the only people that fish the Elite Series anymore are full-time spotlighters, or the majority of them are. They're not going to vote against their own best interest in terms of taking the advantage that they have away and ban forward-facing sonar. It's just like a toothless move on their part. But anyway, guys, I just want to encourage a little bit. Somebody that has been there like myself, I was young and dumb, pumped full of testosterone. I had more testosterone than I did brain cells, which most of these guys that use the term old head, that's sort of the category they fit into. Let me save you a lot of heartache and grief in your life. if you're one of those dudes out there that that gravitates to that phrase of like old washed up geezer and old heads, the sooner you stop that, and the sooner that you take time to respect those people that came before you, the much better off you're going to be. Because all you dudes out there, if there's any guys out there watching this that are, you know, the people that I'm talking about, or you consider yourself, you know, just better than anyone else that's older out there, you got to realize the only reason you're doing what you're doing is you're on the shoulders of the old geezers. They paved the way. They created this environment and they created this world for you to be able to compete in. And in my opinion, if you're fishing the Bassmaster Elite Series and you can't give me a complete history lesson on the history of Bassmaster, you don't deserve to be fishing Bassmaster. That's one of the great things about Connor. He could probably tell you anything you wanted to know about Bassmaster from back since 1970. A lot of these guys out there, they don't even know who, you know, most of the classic winners were prior to 40 facing Sonar. You know, they just jump in here and think that they're entitled to, you know, take a full advantage of everything that was laid out in front of them by the old geezers. So it doesn't hurt to show respect, guys. It does. I mean, if you're, you know, if you're one of those guys that is aware of that and you're respectful to the older group out there, you know, you have my respect. If you're one of those people out there that use the term old head derogatory and you think that I'm full of crap for this video, then you don't have my respect. But you can't earn that respect by changing your point of view. That's the whole thing about it. It's like as we progress through life, we get wiser. And a lot of times you have to go through those life lessons that are hard before you wise up. But it's sort of a natural inclination for people like myself that have been there and done that to, you know, try to make it easier for people to avoid those pitfalls. So anyway, guys, give me some comments. Let me know what y'all think about it. We'll talk later.